I believe in miracles, and some people might not, but they happen all the time. They just don't see it or they refuse to acknowledge it. My parents instilled in all of us our faith, respect, work, and school ethics, and taught us to go to church and all of that. My late parents were the late Norman and Evelyn Smith from Muscadet, and there was 11 of us kids, but 4 passed on, including the eldest, Glenda, Laura, Carl, and my missing sister, Edna. My parents also raised my niece Trish and my nephew Chris from birth, so there was actually 13 if you include them, as they raised them from birth. And there was a lot of other kids too, but they just didn't stay that long, they just come and left. And yes, we were a pretty happy family growing up. We were all busy with school, work, family stuff like gardening and baseball, and not a lot of electronics, but there was the Atari just coming out then. So we always went to church together, and we filled up a good portion of the church pews in our time, along with other families like our aunties and uncles and all of their families. And I remember the original church, and the first church in Muscadet was the St. James Church, and it had a balcony. And it was always full, lots of families every Sunday. But nowadays it's so different, and even more so with COVID. So there's less people attending and lesser people visiting and talking out there. My dad used to be the church keeper as long as I can remember, and his dad too. Anyways, we would always go help him clean up the church, and back then a lot of people would help and visit at the same time. My mom played the organ in Muscadet from the age of 16 when she married my dad, right to the last years before she passed here in May. She would also play in other communities for funerals, weddings, or whatever the request was. So I would attend and end up helping at those functions too. Sometimes at funerals and other reserves, they do things differently, so I'd end up having to serve tea or sandwiches or desserts and make sure everybody was fed. My parents were very involved with the Anglican Church, and therefore I want to carry on their beliefs and their practices in my family too, in my community. I also respect the traditional practices and protocols of our Indigenous people too, as my grandparents taught me a lot, and my granny Sophia Smith told me that when we pray and creed, God is still our creator, and people pray all kinds of ways and in different parts of the country and the world, and they see and call on God by different names, but it's all the same God, whether or not he is called God or not. God is in everything, and he's around us in what we breathe and what we see every day, and he helps us by showing us through everything. But people today, they get too busy to even see or even pray, so they get further away, so it's harder to come back. So we have to believe and pray and never stop going to church. I grew up in Muscadet with a lot of family and a lot of friends in our community. It's a great place to grow up and reside. I went to school in Birch Hills from grade 5 to 12 and had a lot of friends there through the years. So after graduation in Birch Hills, I left home in '86 and ended up in post-secondary school for some time with the U of S, SIT, and SIAS. I took nursing classes, commerce, business admin, and my health administration. I worked hard at the same time taking night classes when possible, and then I got married in 2000. So later on, after working with MD Ambulance a while and STC for 11 years or so, I lost my dad, Norman Smith, in 2003. He passed so suddenly at home in his sleep at the kitchen table having tea. My mom was in bingo, and he sent her to the late bingo that night, and I have a feeling he knew what was going to happen. I oversaw the funeral arrangements and helped my mom with everything, and I helped everybody in the family the best I could. I returned home in 2007 and wanted to help with Mom. Sharon, my sister over here, was helping her around the house, and they lived together. I ended up getting a job at the band office, working as a clerk for 7 years, and then after some urging from the elders, I ran for council, and I became a councillor for 3 terms or 6 years. I enjoy working with people and meeting new people. I love traveling when possible, and mostly just being with family as much as I can. I just recently started, hang on. I recently started with the White Buffalo Treatment Center and enjoyed it until COVID came along and we got temporarily laid off. So there's construction underway there still, and employees will be returning soon. So we'll see what happens next, and I enjoy. In the meantime, I'll enjoy keeping busy outside during the summertime and working when possible. I'm sorry it's hard to breathe.
And it's warm in here.
Okay, of my 4 children, my youngest, David, is still at home with me, and he's 12 years old, and he's attending school in Muscadet. He's my youngest, and due to his after-school programming, he's unable to come tonight, and I know he was really torn up inside about it. Just kidding. My eldest son, William's in Edmonton, based there with PPCLI in the Army since he graduated in 07, and he's a corporal and served a year in Afghanistan before. And now he's just recently done. He's received an honorable discharge, and so he's been busy working towards becoming a plumber now and doing his apprenticeship work in Edmonton, and he has 1 daughter, Nora. My second eldest, Bruce, is married. He works as a geological surveyor and supervisor for Acadia Construction in Saskatoon, and he has 2 little girls. My only daughter, Margot, is working in Saskatoon as an early childhood caregiver, and she works with the neighborhood nurses at a group home, and she's doing good coming and going from home, but that's okay too. I'm very proud of my 4 kids and happy that they're all doing well and surviving through COVID too, especially with everything that's going on. My children grew up going to church with me, and they still try to attend in Muscadet when they come home with some nudging. I always tell them to pray in good times and give thanks, and pray in bad times and pray and give thanks for them, because we all have to seek help through prayers. I believe that good and bad can happen for a reason, like a test for us or another trial to learn from. And only God knows why when bad things happen. All I can do is pray and keep my faith in that and do my best and move on. I'm a cancer survivor and beat kidney cancer in 2014. I survived and do my aftercare and follow-up as required. This came up to the front and on point last summer because I started to help my sister Sharon more and more as she resided with her at the time. Mom was in good health and still very active then, and physically in good shape for her age. Then, in September, October, I became her compassionate caregiver once we found out that she had terminal brain and lung cancer from her doctors and specialists. My mom never smoked in her life. So Mom moved in with me, and she required immediate surgery. So in October at RUH, specialists removed the bulk of her brain tumor, granting her a little bit more time as her brain would continue to swell under pressure from the aggressive brain cancer. While at RUH, Mom was only allowed 1 visitor at the time during COVID, and there were very strict and stringent security rules, so much so that the police were in attendance and visible at RUH if needed. So one day, I went to my appointed time at 1 o'clock, and staffers couldn't explain why she had a visitor that had been there about 10 or 11 that morning, and the person was described as a lady in a darker cloak jacket with her head a little bit covered, and she looked like a nun who was kneeling in prayer by her bedside, as my mom was praying aloud in Cree, saying the Lord's Prayer over and over right beside her. My mom was writing in Cree and saying the prayers in Cree aloud by her bedside table, as she set this up for herself to do in appreciation for her minister Jordan Draper, his help, and for his ministry. Staffers stated that they didn't interrupt or question the lady, as she had an air of authority and looked like she knew what she was doing there with Mom. And the lady carried herself like she was supposed to be there, so the staffers worked around this lady and Mom during that morning routine. She left unidentified and unnoticed. When they asked me why I was there again in the afternoon, I stated I wasn't there earlier and only allowed in now, because I booked my appointment for 1 o'clock. They were very strict that time. I suggested to them to try looking at the visitors list, as visitors all signed in and are all recorded and cameras catch people. Nothing was recorded at any point during this lady's visit, so they allowed me in. I told the staff, my mom's turning 86 right away, making it about 70 years playing the organ at our church. And she married right out of residential school and started playing the organ at St. James in Muscadet. She did that all her life. So I thought maybe it's God's way of taking care of her, for her taking care of her in his own way and for all she done. I don't know, but the staff listened on while they did the checks, but I know she prays a lot, and they swore they saw a lady kneeling beside her bedside. It was documented by staff, so they allowed me to visit once they confirmed it wasn't me. So when I asked Mom who was there earlier, Mom said that nobody came by in the morning, just staff, and that she was so glad I was finally there. Other patients in her room agreed that there was no lady that come in there, so I saw this as a good sign of Mom's care and attention from the other side during her stay in care. My mom understood everything going on and was very strong about it all, as we were all with her from a long time ago. But we all had our moments with her, and she would often say, "I'm still here," in the mornings or after a nap, just as a joke to lighten the mood, and she would try so hard for everything, being so done everything in her daily routine. She's not used to it. So it was very hard and heartbreaking time to watch over her. So in October, she moved in with me, and I went through chemo with her, as her radiation only gave her so much time. She only did 15 treatments over 3 weeks at RUH. All the staff are total angels, and they helped her, and I should say they helped all of us so much with her care and her brain surgery last October. That surgery removed a lot of the cancerous tumor, but not all of it. Her brain will continue to swell, and there was a lot of medications. We did all we could to make her comfortable as possible and attended to her every need and want. We all grew so close as a family unit, and I think we got to grieve enough before the funeral through her care to help her get through losing her. I don't know, it made me stronger, but at the same time, when the time came, it was different. Now, just recently after her funeral here on May 7th, I found out from my doctor right after the funeral that I have cancer again. So I made up my mind I will pray, fight, and beat it again. This time I think I can be stronger from everything going on. I just try to keep a positive frame of mind and do the best I can instead of wallowing in despair and pity as it happens. It doesn't bother me so much as the first time around, because the first time fighting I didn't know if I'd make it through, and now I know I can beat it. I shouldn't have been able to beat it the first time, and I refused chemo as I didn't want to go to the grave unrecognizable to my family and especially to my little son, and opted for surgery. And I prayed and prayed, and I will pray again that I can beat it. And if it's my time, then it's my time. It's my turn, and my faith will get me through this. So thank you, Tanagay, for having me here and listening to me. Thank you.